Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, there comes a moment in every life where the weight of the past tries to define the direction of the future. But let me stand before you today and declare something that may just shift the course of your journey. I am not my past. I am becoming better every day, and so are you. We are not the sum of our regrets, our mistakes, our failures, or the labels others have tried to attach to us. We are the sum of the choices we make now, and the vision we hold for who we are becoming. You are not your past. That may be easy to say, but let's sit with it for a moment and let it settle deep in your heart. You are not your past. You see, life has a way of keeping score. People around you often remember your worst day, not your best. They'll recall your failure louder than your breakthrough. They'll repeat your mistake more times than your lesson learned. But you have to understand that your past is not a prison, unless you decide to live in it. It's a reference point, nothing more. Every single person has chapters in their story they'd rather not read out loud, regrets they don't want replayed, moments of weakness, shame, confusion, or defeat. That's part of being human. You're not alone in that. The difference between those who grow and those who stay stuck isn't the pain they've endured. It's the perspective they've chosen. Too many people confuse what happened to them with who they are. But what happened to you doesn't have the right to define who you're becoming, unless you let it. You are not what you did when you didn't know better. You are not the product of someone else's bad choices. You are not the sum total of disappointments. You are not the person who failed, who fell, or who got it wrong. You are the person who got back up, and that's the part of the story that needs more attention. Not the fall, but the rise. The past is not your address. Don't forward your mail there. Don't settle there. Don't build your beliefs there. It is a place of reference, something to glance back at when you need to remember how far you've come, or what lessons shaped you, or what pain taught you how to pray. But you were never meant to take up permanent residence in it. When you live in the past, you forfeit the present and blur the future. You walk around carrying what was instead of making space for what could be. You rehearse old stories when God is trying to write new ones. And if you're not careful, your history will become your identity. Not because it's the truth, but because you've repeated it so many times that you've forgotten you're allowed to change the script. There's a reason your car has a small rearview mirror and a large windshield. Because what's behind you is meant to be observed briefly, but what's in front of you is meant to be your focus. So many people keep looking backward. They replay conversations that are over. They relive betrayals that have already passed. They resurrect labels someone else stuck on them years ago. But let me remind you, you are not who they said you were. You are not who you used to be. You are not even who you were yesterday. Every day you wake up is proof that the author of your life is not finished with you yet. And if he's not finished, you shouldn't be either. There is wisdom in your past, but not your worth. There are lessons there, but not your limits, and the longer you dwell there, the more you delay your transformation. Yes, you made mistakes. Yes, you've been hurt. Yes, you had moments that almost broke you, but you're still here, and that means you've been given the opportunity to use what tried to bury you as the very soil to grow something new. Let your past inform you, but don't let it imprison you. Let it humble you, but don't let it shame you. Let it remind you, but don't let it define you. You are not your past. You are not the darkness you walked through. You are the light that kept going. You are the strength that rose from the ashes. You are the lesson and the legacy, not the loss. So glance at the past, but focus forward. Because what's ahead of you is too important to be distracted by what's behind. And the world is waiting, not for who you used to be, but for who you're becoming. Somewhere along the way, many of us began to confuse what we did with who we are. We made a mistake, and then we began to wear it like a name tag. We failed at something, and soon we labeled ourselves as failures. We broke something precious, an opportunity, a relationship, a promise, and we quietly started believing that we were broken beyond repair. But let me say this with every bit of clarity and conviction I have, you are not your mistakes. You were never meant to be defined by a single moment of weakness, a single poor decision, or a season where you lost your way. Mistakes are what you encounter on the road to becoming. They are not your name. They are not your value. They are not your identity. Even the best people fall short. Even the most focused minds get distracted. Even the kindest hearts hurt others unintentionally. But here's what separates the growing from the stagnant. It's the realization that falling short does not make you unworthy. It makes you human. Your worth was determined before your first mistake. You carried purpose before you ever missed a step. You were valuable before you had the chance to prove anything. That means your failures, as real as they may be, do not carry the authority to rewrite your original design. The danger is not in the mistake, it's in staying stuck in the guilt that follows. Guilt has a voice, and it's loud. It will try to convince you that you've gone too far, lost too much, or disappointed too deeply. But guilt is only useful when it leads to correction, not when it becomes condemnation. Guilt says, that was wrong. Condemnation says, you are wrong. One brings accountability, the other brings shame, and shame was never your portion. You were not born to carry shame. You were born to carry glory. To reflect something greater than your lowest moments. To rise above what tried to bury you and walk with authority that says, yes, I made a mistake. But I am learning, I am changing, I am not finished yet. Think of it this way. A cracked vessel may no longer look perfect, but when light shines through it, the cracks don't disqualify it. They give the light more room to shine. That's what your story does. Every mistake, when surrendered to growth, becomes a place where light can break through. The world doesn't need perfect people. It needs real people. People who are honest about where they've been, but courageous enough to keep walking forward. And that's you. You're not pretending to be flawless. You're choosing to be free. You're choosing not to let your past mistakes hold you hostage. You're choosing not to let someone else's opinion freeze your potential in place. You're choosing to believe that who you are becoming is more important than who you once were, because identity is not static. It's something you uncover more deeply as you grow. It evolves as you become more aware, more wise, more purposeful. And often, it's the very mistakes that help you find out what really matters, what kind of person you want to be, what values you hold, what direction your life should take. When you stop allowing your mistakes to define you, something powerful happens. You reclaim your power, you begin to speak differently about yourself. You stop saying things like, I'm just a mess, and start saying, I'm healing, I'm learning, I'm on my way. You stop hiding in shame and start standing in truth. You stop avoiding growth and start embracing it. You are not called to stay stuck in a mistake. You are called to rise, to rebuild, to be renewed. And every single day you choose to keep going is a day that proves your mistake didn't win. You did, so when the voice of guilt whispers in your ear, remember this. Your mistake was a moment. It is not a mirror. Don't keep reflecting on it. Don't keep defining yourself by it. That's not your reflection anymore. You've grown, you've changed, you're wiser, and you're still becoming. Who you are today is not who you were then, and who you're becoming tomorrow is even greater. There comes a point in every journey where holding on becomes heavier than letting go, where the weight of what you refuse to release starts to slow you down more than what you're trying to reach. And if you've ever felt stuck, not because of lack of vision, but because something old keeps tugging on you, it may be time to look at what you're still carrying. Growth is not just about what you learn. It's about what you leave behind. Some things simply cannot travel with you into your future, not because they were always bad, but because they no longer serve the person you're becoming. They belong to an older version of you, a version that survived but isn't meant to stay. The truth is, some of us aren't being held back by external forces. We're being held back by attachments, old habits, old mindsets, old wounds, old environments, or even people whose presence once felt comforting but now quietly limits who were meant to be. And the longer you hold on to those things, the more they blur your vision and block your growth. Growth demands space, space in your heart, your mind, and your spirit. Space to receive new ideas, new direction, new connections, and fresh wisdom. But if all that space is occupied by past pain, lingering resentment, fear of judgment, or constant comparison to who you once were, then you've already told the future, there's no room here. Letting go doesn't always mean forgetting. It means freeing yourself from the emotional weight of what's behind you. It means releasing the tight grip of control over things you cannot change. It means forgiving even when the apology never came. It means choosing peace over the need to be right, to be understood, or to win. That kind of release is not weakness. It's strength. It's not passive, it's powerful, because it takes courage to walk away from something familiar, even when it's no longer fruitful. It takes faith to believe that what's ahead is better than what's behind, and it takes maturity to realize that not everything lost was meant to be kept. Sometimes we stay stuck not because we're lost, but because we become emotionally loyal to something that doesn't belong in our future. Maybe it's a story we keep telling ourselves about why we can't succeed. Maybe it's a label someone placed on us years ago that we've never questioned. Maybe it's bitterness we've nurtured until it grew into a wall that blocks every new beginning. But you can't build a new life on top of an old wound. You can't write a new chapter while reading the last one over and over again. There must be a turning point, a moment of honesty where you say, this thing I've been holding onto, it's costing me more than it's giving me. Letting go is not always loud. Sometimes it happens quietly, in the decision to stop proving yourself to people who will never see you clearly, in the choice to delete the number you keep going back to when you feel lonely. In the moment you stop asking why something ended and instead start asking what you're supposed to learn from it. You grow when you release. You grow when you surrender what was so you can fully embrace what is. You grow when you no longer allow your comfort zone to become your cage. And yes, growth will stretch you. Letting go will hurt. It may feel like loss at first, because you're detaching from things that were deeply woven into your identity. But what feels like loss is often just space being created for something greater to arrive. You can't receive new purpose with hands still clinging to old pain. You can't carry the weight of your calling while dragging the baggage of yesterday. What lies ahead of you requires a lighter heart, a clearer mind, and a freer spirit. So release it, not because it didn't matter, but because you matter more, not because it wasn't real, but because your growth is real too. And where you're going, emotionally, spiritually, purposefully, cannot afford to be delayed by what no longer fits. Sometimes the most powerful act of becoming is the quiet, determined act of letting go. Destiny isn't something that just happens to you. It's something that's built, shaped, and formed day by day, decision by decision. Most people are waiting for a breakthrough, but often the breakthrough is already waiting for them. Waiting for consistency, discipline, and small choices made in private that no one else sees. That's where real transformation lies. It's easy to get excited about big dreams, to talk about purpose, to say we want to grow. But the truth is, it's not our intentions that create our future. It's our decisions, not once in a while, not when it's convenient, but every single day. The choices we make on ordinary days shape the kind of life we experience on extraordinary ones. Most people underestimate the power of daily discipline. They think greatness happens in a single leap, in some dramatic, life-altering event. But the truth is, greatness is hidden in the small, unseen steps that most people overlook. It's in how you respond when nobody's watching. It's in the extra 10 minutes you give to your purpose. It's in the conversation you choose not to have, the temptation you choose to resist, the mindset you choose to protect. Destiny does not respond to wishes. It responds to work, quiet, steady, committed work. There is no fast track to becoming. There is only the slow, intentional process of becoming better every day. And the beauty is, you don't have to get everything right at once. You just have to keep choosing the next right thing. Every decision you make is a seed, and the thing about seeds is, they don't look like much at first. In fact, some of the most important choices you'll make won't feel powerful in the moment. Waking up early to pray or reflect. Saying no when it would be easier to say yes. Investing time in growth when you could be scrolling through distractions. Those decisions may not come with applause or instant results, but they're doing something deep inside you. They're building roots. We live in a world that rewards results, not roots. But without roots, nothing lasts. Without daily choices that align with your purpose, your vision becomes a fantasy instead of a future. You don't drift into destiny. You decide your way into it. The challenge is that daily decisions are often quiet. They don't feel urgent, and because they don't demand attention, they're easy to ignore. That's why so many people delay change. They're waiting for the perfect time, the perfect motivation, or a dramatic moment that forces them to act. But the people who change their lives don't wait for crisis. They build habits before crisis arrives. You shape your character by the choices you make when nobody is clapping for you. You build your future in the hours when it's easier to do nothing. And every time you choose to do the hard thing, the meaningful thing, the aligned thing, you are moving closer to the life you were created for. It's not about perfection. You will mess up. You will miss some days. You will take wrong turns. But don't let one bad day turn into a bad week. Don't let one poor choice convince you that the whole journey is lost. Return to your values. Return to your why. Return to the simple truth that you are always one decision away from turning it around. Consistency doesn't mean never failing. It means returning, again and again, to the path that leads to your growth. It means understanding that momentum is built over time, and that faithfulness to small things leads to favor in big things. You don't need to leap forward every day. Some days you'll run, some days you'll walk. And some days the victory is just in not giving up. But as long as you're moving forward, you're winning, because direction matters more than speed. And the person who moves 1 inch closer to purpose every day will always go farther than the person who only moves when they feel inspired. So today, you have a choice to complain or to grow, to stay comfortable or to stretch, to repeat yesterday or to step into the future. And that choice is yours, every single day. Because in the end, your life won't be shaped by what you said you wanted. It will be shaped by what you consistently chose. There's a quiet battle going on in every heart, a battle between memory and vision. Memory reminds you of what was. Vision calls you into what could be. And the direction your life takes depends on which one you listen to more. Memory is powerful. It can be comforting, but it can also be confining. It gives you a record of past events, but it doesn't always tell the full truth. It remembers how something felt, but not necessarily what it meant. It reminds you of your past limits, not your future potential. The danger is, if you're not careful, you begin to build your life around your memory instead of your imagination. And what you rehearse often becomes what you reach for. That's why so many people stay stuck. Not because there's no future available, but because they've become too familiar with what's already been. They know the pain of the past so well, they're afraid to believe in a different story. They've memorized disappointment to the point that dreaming again feels dangerous. But if you keep looking through the lens of memory, you'll only see repetition, not transformation. Vision is what allows you to interrupt the cycle. Vision is the ability to see something greater than what you've seen before. It's not wishful thinking. It's a picture of what your life could look like when purpose, clarity, and courage come together. Vision stretches you beyond your current surroundings. It challenges your excuses. It awakens your faith. But vision requires one thing most of us struggle with: letting go of the need to have proof before we believe. Because vision always shows up before reality does, it calls you into a version of yourself you haven't met yet, and a future you haven't touched yet, and that's uncomfortable. That's where the battle begins, between what you know and what you believe is possible. So many people trade their vision for familiarity. They settle for what's predictable even if it's painful. They say things like, "I've always been this way," or "that's just how life is." But that's memory talking. That's the echo of past experience trying to write the next chapter. But your next chapter shouldn't be written by your last one. It should be written by your convictions, your calling, your faith in a life that looks different from what you've seen before. Your memory may contain moments of failure, heartbreak, and confusion, but vision speaks a different language. Vision says, that's not where the story ends. Vision says, you're allowed to dream again. Vision says, there is more. And sometimes that's all you need to begin again, the willingness to believe that there is more. To live by vision, you have to feed it. You can't keep replaying the worst days and expect to walk into the best ones. You have to speak what you want to see, not just what you've seen before. You have to surround yourself with people who remind you of where you're going, not just where you've been. You have to protect your imagination like it's sacred, because it is. It's the birthplace of purpose. Living by vision doesn't mean you ignore your past. It means you refuse to be ruled by it. It means you honor what happened, you learn from it, but you don't stop there. You use it as a stepping stone, not a stopping point. You allow it to teach you, not trap you. And if your memories are louder than your dreams right now, that doesn't mean you're broken. It just means it's time to reawaken your vision. Time to quiet the noise of what was and turn your focus toward what could still be. Time to stop waiting for signs and start walking by faith. You don't need everything figured out to move forward. You just need something worth moving toward. That's the power of vision. It gives you direction even when your surroundings say otherwise. It gives you hope even when your history gives you reasons to quit. It pulls you forward when your memory tries to pull you back. So make the decision, not to forget, but to dream anyway, not to erase the past, but to write a future that doesn't repeat it. Because you weren't created to be a prisoner of memory. You were created to be a steward of vision. And when you start living from that place, your past stops controlling your story, and your future begins to unfold. Sometimes we get so focused on fixing ourselves that we forget we're not just becoming better for us, we're becoming for the sake of others too. Your growth is not an isolated event. It's not just a personal project. It's a gift, a ripple, a spark that touches lives beyond your own. The way you rise, the way you heal, the way you overcome it creates space for others to do the same. There's someone watching you right now. They might not say it out loud. You may not even know who they are, but they're watching how you carry yourself, how you navigate hard seasons, how you refuse to quit. And just by being faithful to your own becoming, you're giving someone else quiet permission to believe they can become too. That's the power of growth. It's contagious. It multiplies. The better you become, the more light you shine. And light doesn't need to announce itself. It simply enters a room and changes the atmosphere. That's what your journey does. You may not feel like it, but every time you choose healing over bitterness, truth over denial, and purpose over comfort, you're making the world around you better. Most people think they need to be completely whole before they can offer anything meaningful. They wait to be perfect before they speak, before they serve, before they show up fully. But you don't need to be perfect to make an impact. You just need to be real. You just need to be honest about your process and brave enough to stay in it. People are not inspired by perfection. They are inspired by authenticity. They're moved by stories of people who walked through fire and came out with wisdom. People who fell and got up, not once, but again and again. People who admit they're still in progress, but keep showing up anyway. That's you. You are a living testimony of grace in motion. Every scar you carry, every lesson you've learned, every mountain you've climbed has value, not just for you, but for the people who will cross your path one day. And you don't always get to choose when or how your life becomes a light for someone else. Sometimes it happens in a conversation you didn't plan. Sometimes it's in a moment where someone sees strength in you that they didn't know they had in themselves. That's why your becoming matters. It's not just about reaching your goals or feeling better about your past. It's about contributing something real to the world, something only you can give, and that contribution doesn't have to look big or dramatic. Sometimes it's just your presence, your kindness, your discipline, your willingness to grow when it would have been easier to give up. There are people you haven't met yet who will one day be grateful that you didn't stop here. People who will look back and say, because you kept going, I believed I could too. And that's legacy, not money, not titles, not applause. Legacy is the impact of your becoming on the lives of others. It's the influence of your growth echoing into places your feet may never even walk. You weren't created to simply survive. You were created to lead, to influence, to restore, to reflect light in a world that's desperate for hope. But to do that, you have to embrace your own process. Not hide it, not rush it, not despise it, because the process is what prepares you. Every day you choose to become better is a day you align with the reason you were placed here. So don't minimize your journey. Don't tell yourself it doesn't matter just because it's messy or slow. The world needs people who are honest about transformation, people who show others that becoming is possible, not just for the strong but for the willing, for the ones who choose growth over stagnation, surrender over pride, and courage over fear. You may not see the full picture yet, you may not feel ready, but you are becoming, and that in itself is the beginning of impact. Don't hold back, keep becoming because someone else's break through might be waiting on the other side of your decision not to give up. So now you've heard it, I am not my past, I am becoming better every day. Not because the road has been easy, not because I've never fallen, but because I've made a decision. I will not let who I was interfere with who I am becoming. I will not live in the shadows of memory when I've been called to walk in the light of vision. I will not be defined by mistakes when I'm being refined by purpose. I will not cling to what's familiar when freedom is found in letting go, and I will not wait for permission to grow when I already carry the power to choose. Every day is a new opportunity, a new invitation to rise, to rewrite the narrative, to walk in healing, in wisdom, in wholeness, to become, not just for myself, but for the people who are waiting on my courage to give them hope for their own. Because in the end, your becoming is not just about what you achieve, it's about what you awaken in others. So I leave you with this truth: your past may have shaped you, but it does not own you. Your mistakes may have taught you, but they do not define you. And your future? Your future is still being written, one bold decision at a time. Keep becoming, keep rising, keep going, because the best of you is still unfolding and the world is waiting.